we have a brain to solve problems. So if you have no problems and you live in your head, you're going to find problems.
That thought is now driving the bus, and we're heading straight for a cliff.
There are things that we're holding on to because we made up stuff about those things.
The ability to go in and ask that question is just so powerful.
That's the first place to look. I can do something different now because I see something different. That's in the hands of everybody listening.
Welcome back to Live Into Your Brilliance, the place where myself, Billows, and our amazing guests dismantle illusions that are getting in our way and wake ourselves up to the truth and the brilliance that's already right here. Today's guest is the amazing Jasmyne DesBiens. Jasmyne is a transformational coach and speaker, and she's someone who's learned how to see through the noise and return to what's real, and her story is so powerful. But what's in it for you is also very powerful, because what Jasmyne shares is the quiet power of asking ourselves really honest questions. The kind of questions that expose the lies that we tell ourselves and gently lead us back to the peace and clarity that we're looking for. So if it looks like your mind is running the show and running you in circles, then I'm pretty confident this episode is perfect for you. Jasmyne, you know where we start. Like, we want to get straight into the heart of the matter. On your life journey and in all the conversations you've seen and what you're seeing for yourself, what right now is the biggest insight or thing that you're seeing that you would love to share and talk to our audience about, that if they could just catch a glimpse of it, you'd be like, I think this has great possibility for everybody?
If everyone could see that their experience of life is what's happening inside of them, like this it all starts with you kind of thing. It's like it starts here. If you could see or just be honest with what's going on inside, just that would make all the difference in living the life you want.
Mm. What do you mean by if people only knew their experience was in here and if they could be honest about what's going on in here? What does, yeah, share a little bit more about what that means to you.
What I love to share examples. I'm an example girl. I love to do the example thing. So something happened this week, and I felt left out, and I was pissed. I was like, I think of everybody. Nobody thinks of me. Why doesn't anybody think of me? And then I went into a rampage of, pissed off energy. I was just ticked. And I didn't want to talk to these people. It was like, my habitual way of being is, oh yeah, you told me I was allowed to say it, so I'm going to say it. Fuck you. You don't think of me? Fuck you. That's kind of like, where I go. But and this has been recurring in my life, But because I look within and I look at what's going on. If really it all starts with me, then what's going on inside me? And I saw that. I thought, well, I think of everybody, so everybody's going to think of me. I like to party with everybody. I like to invite everybody to my podcast. Everybody's going to invite me, right? I have this thought that tells me if you think this, then this is automatically going to happen. Well, that's not true. Because if it were true, I'd be very busy right now. You know, because everybody would think of me. That's not how that works. Now, do I go into the thinking of it's not happening, so it's their fault? Do I point it out there? Do I go, oh well, it's because of you. I'm feeling like this because of you. No, they're not in here. Who's in here? I'm in here. So the next step is, okay, well, what is this about? Now, the thing I've been doing, which hasn't been very helpful, is beat myself up about it, because now I see, oh, you're thinking this, and you're thinking because you're thinking this, that this is going to happen and it's not happening. See, you're stupid. You shouldn't be thinking like that. And now I've been beating myself up. So I've been caught up in the beating up of myself for a long time. But now I'm just seeing it differently. I'm seeing like, okay, so it's kind of like a natural evolution that's happening. It's like, okay, so it's starting with me. They're not inside me, I'm inside me. The experience of my life, it's coming from me. I'm the one saying this sucks. I'm the one, it's not them, it's me. And now I'm seeing that I was doing even more with the experience, right? I would do something that not a lot of people see, like being aware of what's going on inside is not necessarily the first thing human beings do. But because I was seeing it, I was then beating myself up about it. Now that is something as human beings do. Like I think that we do that. We kind of go into a mode of, why are you doing it? What are you doing? Like there's like this mental activity happening. Now it's kind of like I'm just going back to it all starts with me, what's going on inside, and I understand where my experience of life comes from. So if I'm feeling good, I'm essentially probably having good thinking, good thoughts about what's going on. If I'm feeling bad, I'm probably having bad thinking about what's going on. Now it's kind of like, which one do I want? Well, I want peace. I want, like, my peace is more important than anything else. And so when the peace is not there, when I'm present to the peace is not there, I'm going back in and I'm looking just to, I don't necessarily want to fix the thought, but I want to just bring myself back here because I can do something about what's going on here. I can't do anything about what's going on out there. So, like, this occurred, and I was like, okay, do I call them and let them know? Do I tell them now? Why did you not think of me? I thought about you for this. I thought about you for this. I thought about you for that. Why didn't you think about me? Now, what purpose would that have done? Me doing that would have like made them feel bad. Why? So that I can feel better? No. It's all made up.
And Jasmine, when did you start to see this truth about how we create reality?
I started seeing it very young, honestly. I did a lot of things in my life, and one of the things that I did was sell Herbalife products, these vitamin things. And this company is a multi-level marketing, and they train their people. And I was committed. You know, when I do something, I'm committed. And I was going to the trainings and I was there and I was like on it. And I remember my mother didn't like it. My mother was like, why are you doing this? This is so stupid. And she had a lot of judgment around that. And so I was hiding. I was hiding it from my mother. I was in my 30s and I was hiding it from my mother. I remember one of those times I was at one of the trainings and I was so afraid that she would find out that I was spending basically my day in the bathroom, because that's what happens to me, you know? And I remember going, I had this, all of a sudden, this epiphany, this like something just came from within going, how many 30-year-olds are locked in the bathroom, afraid that their mother's going to find out that she's at a training for this thing? How many of them? And it just, all of a sudden, it was gone. It was like, there's nothing. Like, I don't even know how to explain it. It was just like that simple thought that was coming from, I have no idea where, made everything go away. And the rest of the day was fantastic. And that made me start looking, what is it that you're telling yourself that's making you freak out? I was also a singer. And before a show, oh my God, it was like my mouth was so dry, my lips would stick on my teeth. That's how dry that was. That's how stressed I was. And I was like, okay, well, what is it that's going on inside that's making this happen? And I saw that I was afraid to have the bad words, the wrong words of the song. And I was afraid that people would judge me. And then I had a thought that was like, wait, you've been doing this for years. And every time you have the wrong words, because I would make up words essentially sometimes. And I still do it when I sing. If I don't remember the words, as long as I have the melody, I'm just going to make stuff up because it doesn't matter. And I was like, huh. And then are people going to judge me? Well, actually, everybody judges everybody. So I just saw it. And from that moment on, I started looking more and more, more and more. Like, and then you grow. You start growing and you start expanding. And you learn. And then you feel good. And then you go to bed at night and you sleep. You don't wonder, oh, why did I do that? I can't believe I did that. Because that's what I was doing. Like it was invading my peace of mind.
Jasmine, what I like about what you've pointed to there is this idea that the, it's not a instant transformation. And Al and I talk about this the whole time, and we've got dear friends, and we even suffer from this sometimes, when you're just like, damn, if I could just have that one thing that could just transform me and take me to where I need to go, like life would be good. And what I hear in your stories, in your lovely examples, is these moments of noticing and becoming and deepening your awareness, and this idea that this transformation is like, one step at a time. You have to pick these pieces up and look at them from all angles, and then have that honest conversation, and then say, okay. And then the beautiful thing is, once you've seen it, you can't unsee it. So then you're like, damn, okay, now I'm armed with this this greater awareness. I know what's going on here in terms of how honest I'm willing to be at times, or how manipulative I can be, or, like whatever the situation is, to riff off your example. What I hope the listener is hearing is to say, when you notice these pieces and your awareness becomes deepened and you become curious about them, and then you see how it actually works, then you get this grounding and it allows you to take the next step. But don't for a moment think that this is going to result in some gee whiz bang transformation, because it's not. It's about taking the next step and then seeing a little bit more, becoming a little bit more curious. After a couple of months, 6 months, a year, you suddenly look and you're like, a transformation has happened, but you don't actually see it in the moment necessarily. But giving yourself the time is important.
What I see is that every time we're doing better, it's a movement thing. It's like we move and then, oh, we see something new and then we're doing a little better. Like, not just doing better inside, but we're doing better. And if you do better every day, if every day you're like, oh, yeah, ah, oh, that was good today. Like, I'm super happy that I didn't send the email, because I could have sent the email. Hey, I can't believe you didn't think about me. I could have done that. And I would have dealt with whatever would have occurred. And they're lovely people, and they would have probably said, oh, I'm so sorry, Jasmine, we didn't think about it, da, 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 da. Like, they could have done whatever. That was talking to, I kind of, I tend to go ego. It was kind of like talking to my ego, that part of me that I've created, that I don't really want to feed anymore. Like, I want people to feel good, and because I think that the more we feel good, the more good we do, if that makes any sense, right? So there's freedom in doing it, and the more you do it, like, at one point you'll be like, wait, I usually responded like that, I didn't do that. Wow, when did that happen? when when did that happen?
Yeah.
But that's because every day we do it, or we keep we stay in the inquiry. It's little bits and pieces. Well, what's going on right now? Well, right now I'm pissed. Okay, that's good. That's You got one. I'm sad. Okay, you got one. Okay. Once you've gotten through the all of those emotions, okay, now do you have to be sad? you know? Like, does it have to be that way? Can we see it differently? Would it be possible?
But the word that has jumped out at me and it's been bounced around inside my head is the word honest. Can I be honest about that? If you were to say to our listener and they're going, okay, like I hear what you're talking to, but like, what's the key to being honest with myself? What do I need to be honest with myself about? Where am I likely to be dishonest with myself, if there is, or where am I lying to myself? What do you think is the key to that?
For me, if I want to look good, if there's a looking good aspect or fear of looking bad, that's where I need to start being honest with myself. That I think that's the first place to look.
Like, the first place to look is if we are trying to look good or we fear we might look bad.
Yeah.
It's almost the words that come up for me. There's like, if you're doing that, you're not trusting yourself. I don't know if that's what resonates. That's what's just coming up for me as you said it. I'm like, oh yeah, like, can I be honest with myself when I'm scared that somehow I might not look good or I need to look different. The honesty there for me would be, well, how could you look bad? How could you not look good? It's like it only means that there's a potential deep rooted, or it doesn't even maybe have deep rooted, but there's a potential distrust of self, or a lacking within oneself of an ability to see, oh, I'm enough.
I mean, if we think about it, it's insecure thinking. I mean, all insecure thinking shows up in any different way. I kind of like made these two big categories because that's kind of like most of the time it's either that I'm afraid to look bad or I'm wanting to look good. Like I even like came onto the podcast and was like, "Oh, I gotta look good." No, I just I just want to be me and have a conversation with you and tell you what I'm seeing. And then you're going to say, "Well, I don't understand, Jasmine. What do you mean by that?" And then I'm going to say, "Huh, you don't understand. How can I like, it's about it's a co-creation thing. But if I'm up here going, I have to look good, what fancy words can I use? Let me go into my intellect when I'm feeling like I need to look good, then somewhere I think I look bad. Can't be who I am the way that I am."
Earlier, you mentioned the word love, and love of self, and love of others, and uh, is another way of saying what you're saying. You either operate from your head or from your heart, and when you're operating from your head, you tend to be less honest. Is that right?
Mm, I I don't want to make it wrong. I don't want like I don't want to say working from the heart is good, working from the head is wrong. I
Right.
don't want to separate them like that because the fact of the matter is we
Go
we
between the two.
we go between the two all the time,
Mm.
right? The thing is that sometimes when we're only in our heads, we're no longer following our natural flow. We're following intellectual flow of something we made up instead of bringing ourselves back to the moment, to right now, and seeing right now, how do you want to respond?
Mm. Yeah, I love that because Al and I often joke about this. It's like being in your head is not a bad thing, you know, and so I think dispelling or blowing up that illusion is very useful for the listener. Being in your head is not a bad thing, and sometimes we are in our head, and it's just you stuff's going on, and you perseverating, and you're latching onto your thinking and following things down different rabbit holes. But it's when you allow unhelpful thinking to take control of the steering wheel, that's when I think the wheels come off. And so I'm glad you said what you said, because yeah, my fear is the oversimplification of, oh, it's heart or head, gets misinterpreted and misused. Because I agree with you 100%. I think sometimes it's okay to be up here, and we oscillate between the two all the time. It's when we notice, like, oh my gosh, that thought is now driving the bus, and we're heading straight for a cliff. And being able to see that and then go, I'm doing it again. Okay, it's okay. Can I sit quietly and go back and just operate from that quiet place? Or Can I just know that I'm in stormy waters? It's okay, but I don't have to go over the deep end, you know. Um, and that level of honesty, I think, is perhaps some of the deepest grounding that I've personally experienced.
It's not always easy.
No, God, no. It's
Not
freaking
always.
difficult.
Yeah.
Freaking difficult.
So on my podcast, I had Christine Heath that came on. Christine, I don't know if you're familiar with, but she's a three principles practitioner that learned with Sydney Banks, and we had this conversation about the intellect. Now, I do have a tendency to make the intellect wrong. Oh no, no, I really want to work from wisdom. I really want to be there. I like the feeling when I'm there. So I do have that tendency, and I had it for a long time. So Bilos, I totally get you. It's not about that anymore for me. It used to be. It was like, I'm in my head, I'm gonna get out of my head. But really, as soon as I say that, I'm in my head still. If you think about it. And what she was saying was, Jasmine, when you're in your head, your brain is there to find problems. We have a brain to solve problems. So if you have no problems and you live in your head, you're going to find problems. And your brain is going to help you to solve the problems. So we can go in there and just like live there for a long time if we're not seeing, oh shit, I'm just creating problems with my mind and then creating solutions with my mind. So it has a different feeling when I started seeing that I get goosebumps when I when I'm touching something that is like, oh my God, that's not the intellect. I can feel, I get the goosies. So now this is my gauge. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm trading something. Oh, oh, this is good. This is good. This is going to be good. So this is my new thing, right? But I am using my intellect about it. Like I work with businesses, like that's what I do. You were asking me what I do. So I've done a bunch of things. I did all of that, and I worked in businesses and I worked with systems. I created systems. So imagine I'm in my head. I'm going into companies and I'm like, "Okay, so the call comes in and then you get uh an order request. How do you do it?" And then I'm just going into like every little possibilities. They need this product. Okay, what's the path? And I'm creating all of these paths in my head to make the business flow properly, right? That's what I'm doing with my brain. Well, I was doing this with my life. Like it was kind of like, okay, wake up in the morning, I need to shower. Okay, then I'm going to go. What's the most efficient way to do the shower? You got to wash the face first, then you got to do like I would be like this was nuts. I was going crazy. But the information that we have, like we put information in, that's what Christine was saying also. In here, you've got information. You can't do anything with new information. Like you have to put new information in it. If you want to put new information in your brain, you have to come back to the present and see something new. See, if you don't see something new, you're just seeing the same old thing. And so you're really up here. You're really in your brain. So it's about bringing yourself back to the present moment and seeing what's going on. And we're using our brain.
And I find that often we're so lost to the idea that there's something wrong or something right that we don't slow down enough just to be with that question. Oh, what is going on? What's my truth right now? And and what's my truth in terms of what's going on in here and what's going on out there? Like your example to begin with. What's going on out there? Someone's having a party and you're not invited.
What's going on in here? How could they?
Yeah, massive story. But the truth is, like, Oh, there's a party going on, you're not going. Like, there's gazillions of parties going on in the world, and you're not going to any of them either. But it's just that we're making a big deal about this one because we're making up the story. Now, there's a part of it then for me, which is, and I'm curious about this, it's then to what degree when we settle down can we be with what is? This is, to me, is the honesty piece. It's what's going on right now. Well, I'm blaming the world for the way I feel. Oh, okay. What do you want to do with that? And I find that sometimes I don't, and I find that is kind of where the rubber hits the road in these, is the truth that is the really good news, but in one sense it sounds like bad news, which is what, no matter how I'm feeling, you're telling me it comes back to me. And it's like, yeah, that's true. And the world's not causing it. Nope. But the world does still do funky shit. Yep, that's also true. And it's like, can you be with both of those things? The world does funky stuff out here, and you do funky stuff in here. It looks like they're totally related, but they're not really. They're in a dance with each other. This is happening, but your experience of it is entirely self-created. But the ability to go in and ask that question, what's going on here for me right now, is just so powerful. At least to me, I'm like, it's like, what a great grounding question. Like, what's going on right now? Can you illuminate for us, for the listener, like maybe a place in your life where you weren't always honest with yourself? To be able to go back and say, oh, I see this now, but there was a time when I wasn't really being honest with myself about this, or I was ignorant to this fact. I don't mean ignorant as in stupid. I just mean ignorant as in not wasn't aware.
So, one of the things in my life that I've been struggling with is my weight. And all my life, it's not like it didn't start when I was 30. It started when I was 6, 7. And so I've been living with it, all my life. And I do what I want. I live the life I want. This is not a recent thing. This is, I've always been like this. It's about living the life I want. But as I went through life, I started seeing, okay, well, I wanted this, but wanting this resulted in this. Maybe I don't want this. So maybe I really don't want that. So that's how it kind of like started to work itself out for me. Do you know what I mean? It was kind of like, okay, yeah, there are things that we want that are surface level. Like I want cotton candy, you know, and then cotton candy every day winds up that you get like 30 pounds extra. Well, you don't want the 30 pounds extra. So how do you stop that? Now I would get into my head and it was like, well, that's normal. You understand the process. No, I would start the judgment thing. It would like roll around. So essentially my intellect couldn't manage this information. I like all of the noise around weight, there was just too much of it. And because I was working from this level, I mean, at one point you start going on a diet, and then at one point you start going on meditation, like intellectually I did a lot of things about it, and then it just became overwhelming, and I just said, fuck it. I'm just going to do what I want when I want. And one day my father said to me, and this happened, I'm going to say this happened maybe, well, my father would say it all the time, but maybe 3 years ago, my father said, I was with him. I went to see him. I'm all happy to see my dad. And then I'm like, okay, dad, I got to go. So I put my coat on and he looks at me, and I'm not saying he did this, but I want you to know how the inside was. My father went, how much do you weigh? you know, that's not what he did. This is how I received it. And I looked at him And before, I would have said, can't believe you just said that to me. You're so insensitive. And I would just go into a rant of pissed off at him. Now I looked at him, and instead of saying anything, I walked out. Just walked out. I was putting my coat on anyways, just walked out. Got in my car, and I said, it's happening inside of you, Jasmine. It's in here. He's got his thing. I don't know what he's thinking. He's thinking whatever he's thinking with that comment. And I have no idea what he's thinking. I don't know what's going on inside of him, but I know what's going on inside of me. Now it's kind of like, what is going on inside of you? If it's happening inside of you, Jazz, what's going on? So the first thing that I saw was, this is how I am. I've always been like this. This is how I am. This is how I will be. I tried. It doesn't work. I'm done. Just have to accept it. And that just didn't feel good. And then I went on a trip to Mexico. And I couldn't fit in the seat. Now, there was a lot of shame there. How could you do this to yourself, Jasmine? How could you? But I'm strong. I've been living with this for a long time. I've been living with all of this thinking for a long time. It's okay. Can't do anything about it, Jasmine. This is how you are. Diets don't work, and you don't want a diet. You want to live the life you want. Okay? Went on the trip. Get there, start, you know that you have to walk when you're on the trip. You know, if you want to visit the area, you have to walk. Well, I was with two cousins who are not overweight and who are in good shape. And I was walking, and I'd have to stop because I couldn't breathe. It was hot. I was sweating, and I had to stop. And the embarrassment of having to stop. And I could have cried. I didn't cry. I was just, what's going on inside? Shame, embarrassment, shame, and a lot of thinking about how could you do that? Beating myself up. I was like, I could have taken a hammer and just like bing, bing, bing. It would have felt probably the same way. We went on a trip, and we went on the bus, and I couldn't fit in the lane, to go sit in the back seat. Couldn't fit even sideways. Major embarrassment. On my way back, when I couldn't fit in the seat, it was kind of like something has to change. Not like I'm wrong, I'm bad, just like, okay, what the fuck are you doing? Like, what's going on? Can you look within? If everything of this is happening within, what's going on? So I started looking at this area, but in a different way, not in a way of how am I going to fix myself, but just what's going on right now. I was literally just, what's going on? Okay. So now I talked to a nutritionist, and she was like, Jasmine, I want you to eat when you're hungry, and I want you to stop eating when you're not hungry. That was mind blowing to me. Look, what do you mean? Well, are you hungry right now? Eat. When you're not hungry, stop eating. What do you mean? It's 9. I have to eat at 9. Because that's the morning. And then at noon, I have to eat. Yeah, but if you're not hungry at noon, would you eat? So I had this whole inquiry, and it was coming from a totally different place. And I started seeing that I was eating because it was time to eat. This is the whole, in your head, in your heart kind of thing, right? So my head said at noon I have to eat lunch. My body said, my nature, my heart said, you're not hungry. My head said, you have to eat. My heart said, you're not hungry. Eat. I choose head. Okay, I have to eat. Why would I choose head? I choose head because I read this somewhere. I heard this somewhere. This one said this somehow. This all of this is was information. Never listening to myself. Never listening to myself. So that it was about bringing myself back to me. And I'm still in that process. I've lost 40 pounds since that trip. I'm feeling much better. I'm walking every day with my dog. I'm feeling my body. I'm walking and I'm like, oh, look at the glide, like I'm proud of what I've accomplished. But I have to be honest with myself every time. And I still eat cotton candy, just so you know. I still want to do what I want, but it's not the same way. I'm seeing it differently. I'm seeing that I was depressed. There was depression involved, never diagnosed, but there was, I lost my mother and I took care of my mother for like 5, 6 years. She was in dementia and she's been gone for 8. And I just didn't see that there was this, there's a whatever, doesn't matter. I just didn't see it. I was still doing my thing, but in this regard, I was, whatever, it doesn't matter. There was a lot of shame of, and you don't want, you're ashamed, but you don't want to say you're ashamed. Who wants to say you're ashamed? Who wants to say that? Nobody wants to say that. So you hide it.
Thank you for sharing it, because
Yeah.
we chatted about it, and you said, well, I'll share it if it comes up, and if it does, great. It doesn't, great. But I really appreciate you sharing it and being vulnerable, if that's the right word, to put it out there. The thing you said there at the end, no one wants to say that they're ashamed, they've got shame,
Or depressed.
or depressed, and yet, and I'd love if you could talk to this. It strikes me that sits again at the heart of the question of, like, what's going on here, and then and then was your ability to be with your shame part of the catalyst for, I don't know, seeing things new and fresh?
The part of the catalyst for me was expressing my emotions. I was I was shutting up. um, and then I would get angry. Like I would repress. I would repress. Something would happen. I got an emotion, repress. Shut up. You're bigger than this. You don't have to. That was the when I was telling you, Billos, about you know when you're in your head, it's wrong. When you're in your heart, is good. So whenever I had an emotion, for me, it was like you're in your head. That's wrong. Ignore it. No, don't ignore it. Just look at it. So, but I started seeing there's this emotion that I don't like, which is anger. And I started seeing I was angry a lot. Like, why are you angry? What the fuck? Why are you angry? What is there? So I had to go under there. And I talk about shame now, but I did not know I had shame. I did not know. I had to look.
Mm.
But before I could look, I had to really see that why was I angry? Why? My life is great. I have a beautiful life. Why are you angry? That like because you have a beautiful life, you're not supposed to be angry. As I'm saying it, I'm like, doesn't matter. But I still had that question. And then I saw, and there was a lot of shame. Shame for, and I'm gonna be honest. I went to see uh, a therapist, and she was like, let's talk, and we were just talking, and I brought shit back up that I didn't even know was there. And as I brought it up, like it would come up and I'd be like, yeah, but that's not true anymore. And then another thing would come up and I'd be like, but that I don't think that anymore. Like there was so much things inside of me that when I finally said them out loud, I myself went, she didn't have to say anything. This therapist had a great job. She was like, "You really aware of your stuff." She was leaning in. You're good. Go ahead, girl. you know. And as I was going along, I remember I was like, "Oh, there's this thing. I'm not going to tell her that." And then I do another session, and I'm like, "Oh, this thing came up because I see things, right? I become aware, and I'd be like, I'm not going to tell her that, you know." And then I talk about other stuff that I deemed good, right? I can talk about that. I'm okay with that one. Not going to talk about that because that's going to make me look bad. And at one point she said, okay, so now are you ready to release? And as soon as she said that, I was like, holy shit, I'm holding on to more stuff. I said, no, I'm not ready to release. I got more stuff to say. She's like, okay, we're going to have another session. So we had another session. And then I said the stuff. I said, I found things that I just saw things that I haven't told you. I lied. But, I told her. And then she was like, and then we're just having a conversation. And she says to me, she says, okay, so what is the thing that you wanted to tell me? I was like, but I told you when I walked in, I told you. She was like, that's what you were holding on to? And then it just occurred to me like there are things that we're holding on to because we made up stuff about those things. If we can just, now I'm not saying start telling people everything. I'm not saying that. Like if you have someone that you trust, that you I mean, the great thing about our conversations is that there's no judgment. I don't feel judgment in the conversation, right? And I think that we can all feel this. We can go into a conversation and somebody starts talking and you start talking and you can almost feel that, what the fuck are they talking about? Blah, 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 blah. You can almost feel it because it's a spiritual thing that we're doing here, right? So it's palpable. We've got that grounding where we can feel it. You have to find someone that's going to listen to you without judging you so that you can feel safe to say the shit, hear it out loud and go, wait, what? I was thinking that? Because that's what's going to happen.
Mm. Well, I think to riff off what Elle was saying earlier, learning to trust your honesty.
Mm.
What does that feel like?
The the only word that I have is freedom and peace of mind. Like it really feels like to be able to say, fuck, man, I was so ashamed. I was so ashamed. You know what? I'm a human being and I did what I did and I am where I am and I'm doing what I'm doing and everybody else is doing the same thing. Doing the best that we can with everything that we know. I know more now because I looked. I can do something different now because I see something different. That's what everybody, that's in the hands of everybody listening. Be honest with yourself, look within, and see what's going on. Only you know. Like, I can't know. Nobody can know. You can go see a psychiatrist and they're going to say, you're doing this right now. But how many times have I been to, again, I've been trying to fix myself for a long time. I've been to a psychic and the psychic would say, oh, you're like this. And I'd be like, no, I'm not. Like, you hear the truth in somebody, right? Somebody tells you something that's wrong. You're going to be like, no, go away, you know?
Totally. Freedom and peace of mind. It just, I think the way you described it there is powerful because there's a simplicity to it.
Mm.
And it's, my goodness, in one sense, it's what, to me at least, brings freedom and peace of mind right into view. It's like what I can have more of this sense of freedom and peace of mind just by being honest with myself. And it's like, yeah, baby, because the prison that we live in are the lies we tell ourselves. And so the only way we can set ourselves free is to be honest about that, and to be honest about it without judgment. And Jasmine, I think that's the key thing that I hear in your sharings, is that you have learned to be able to go within and see what's there, and that you've learned to not judge yourself for what you find, to really see that you and everyone else are always doing their best. And we're still going to find some stuff that we're like, oh my goodness, like that's what's been going on for me. And then we've the opportunity from there to see something new and fresh. It's it's so simple, and it's also so non-trivial. It is non-trivial what we're talking about. Like, it's the, in one sense, when people say like, what is it that I need to do, like this is the work, if we want to call it the work.
Yeah.
Because it's often much easier to go and spend money on courses, buy books, do the cold plunges, do all the stuff. And there's nothing wrong with any of that stuff. But if we're doing it to avoid having the honest conversation with ourselves, well, then, we are literally probably burning money, is how I would think about it. And I say that from experience, having done all the things and spent all the money on the courses, only to find, oh, actually, you're still not being honest with yourself. But the moment you are, is like, it is the ultimate. Like, you're I think you said your therapist used the word, "Are you ready to release yet?" It's, to me, that is the ultimate release.
Yeah. Isn't it a beautiful word? Release.
This might be a bit of a left field question. Did you find that when you trusted the release, you were less tired?
Never thought about that. I'd have to pay attention. I'd have to pay attention now. I haven't thought about it. I know that I feel like doing more stuff. It's like, it's such a baggage. Like, and you didn't even know you were carrying it, Jazz. Uh, you know, it's like, it's something that you're carrying with you all the time. It's like, okay, let's go for a walk with my shame, you know, and it's heavy.
I've noticed it personally. And a number of people have said to me that when they've released and let go of the narratives and the stories that have been their prison for quite some time, there is a lightness and to your point, they have more energy. They want to go and do more stuff. But there's also this feeling of being exhausted all the time goes away,
Hmm.
because it's exhausting telling those stories. It's exhausting, to your point, carrying that baggage of shame, or whatever the narrative is that we drag along with us for God knows how long. But I just think it's a really curious, interesting physical symptom, that ships along with the honesty, and learning to trust the honesty, and actually delighting in what the honesty brings as opposed to fearing it. And then the next level down is, oh, I no longer have to carry those stories with me. I no longer have to peddle those narratives. I just get to observe, be present, react in the moment, whatever it is. There seems to be an emerging theme for me of it's just less exhausting. There's just a lightness and a delight.
What comes to mind, Delos, is for me, it's the activity, the effort, the intellectual effort of not only having to remember these things, but hide them. And so, like, whether we like it or not, the things that we're hiding when we're having conversations about them, or when we're having just regular conversations, if we're hiding something, we have to actively remember not to talk about something.
Mm.
And I think the older I got, there was more and more. There's just more and more and more and more and more. So I love when we can just see through the shit and come back to our essence. This throughout the whole podcast, this example came to mind that I heard. This is not my example, but I love it, so I'm sharing it. So it's kind of like, this is how thought is created. Like, this is what happens with our thoughts. So let's say we're driving down the street, right? We're driving, all is good. We get into a car accident. Our natural behavior is fear. Like, it's normal. We're going to get afraid. That's natural. So it's like we get afraid, and then our thinking kicks in. What the fuck just happened? I can't believe this happened. And then we start getting angry. Well, some people get angry. And not everybody, maybe some people cry. I get angry. So, like, people get angry and they're like, I'm going to go tell this person what it's their fault. And then you get out of the car and you're like ready. You're going to get that person. You get to the other car and it's this 80-year-old grandma that's bawling and looks at you and shaking and I'm so sorry. And you're like, oh, and then all of a sudden it's all gone. No, it's okay, ma'am. It's okay. We're all good. You take her out. But you can see how it goes from this to this, like this. And the fear is still there. This lady is still in fear. And then you've got your intellect that's either going good or bad, right? But all of it is what we do as human beings.
Just if we can be honest with ourselves about that fact. That's the key. There we go. Jasmine, because you beautifully brought that car story in, it jives quite nicely with our closing tradition on the pod, which I didn't tell you about in advance. So this will just tap into your innate wisdom. If you could design a bumper sticker for life, what would it say?
Enjoy the ride.
Nice. Two little pearlers. Be honest with yourself and enjoy the ride. Jasmine, this has been awesome. Such a cool discussion. Billo, I'll offer to Billows first if he's got any comments before we kind of put a bow on the episode.
Yeah, Jasmine, thanks so much. I jotted down a whole bunch of things that you said, and I think if the listener walks away hearing the delight, the liberation, the freedom that you spoke about, that comes with being honest, and then from that place of honesty, trusting the honesty, and not not getting caught up in the mire that is our thinking, and operating more from that honest place, even when it feels terrifying. Then I think that's a wonderful place to go start. And I think, the question of like, what's going on here, what's actually going on here, is such a wonderful practical thing that our listeners can take away from this episode, and just go and play with, and like, what is actually going on here? Like, where am I coming from? What am I carrying with? What story have I created? How have I imprisoned myself? And do I have the key to release myself from this cell? So I think that's wonderful. We love it when there's kind of practical advice. So thank you so much, and really loved meeting you. Loved meeting Booty, and thank you for your wisdom.
Thank you, Willows. Thank you for inviting me, guys.
Yeah, no, Jasmine, it's been amazing having you on. I've had the pleasure of having a couple of different conversations with you, so I knew there was going to be some gold dropped today. I'll echo, rather than repeat, I'll just echo everything Billows has said. I think for me, that question of what's going on here is going to sit with me. I'm going to make sure that I'm really asking myself that question more, because it's super simple and super powerful, and it brings me right back home to the place that you pointed to at the beginning. It's all going on in here. So the question of, hey, what's really going on here? It's just, and there's a kindness to it that I love. And I think there's a kindness to you that I love as well. And I've said this to you, I think the way that you share your story, I think the realness of you and the kindness of you is awesome. And I know that the people that work with you are blessed, because I think that's what people really want. They want realness and kindness. So thank you.
Well, thank you very much for all of that. You're actually also helping me just clarify how I speak and what I say. So I think that the be honest and trust is going to be a new thing for me.
Yes. Well, we love that. And with that, to our listener, thank you for tuning in, watching, or listening. We hope that this one has been as revelatory for you as it has been for us. And, if you're going to take one thing away from this conversation just right now, just check in. What's going on right now? And see what's there. Because if we can be with what is, that's a beautiful place to be. Until we're with you next week, as always, go forth and live into your brilliance.